Most importantly, I thank the Lord my God for showing me providence in my life so far, and I hope He continues to do so. As I begin my military career, I'll keep each one of you that helped shape me in my heart and close to my mind. I'll never be a stranger. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dr. Rayshawn Ray, aiming to speak truth to power, and this is my daily thought. Reflections from a professor on the campus where a hate crime has commenced. What I'm talking about is this past Saturday at 3 a.m., Army Lieutenant Richard Collins was preparing to take an Uber home, standing with two of his friends who were University of Maryland students. Lieutenant Collins was a senior at Bowie State University and was prepared to graduate today, actually. And his parents actually went up and received his diploma on his behalf, and a special seat was placed by Bowie State students for his absence. And a white student came up, Mr. Urbanski, who was a University of Maryland student, or who is a University of Maryland student at this time, yelling barrages at Officer Collins, telling him to move left and get out of the way. Next thing you know, Urbanski stabbed Collins, killing him. And the FBI is now investigating this incident as a hate crime after it was discovered that Urbanski is part of a Facebook group called Alt-Right Nation. I mean, if you just see some of the posts, some of the recent posts that they post, that is highly inflammatory, highly racist. And we actually see that he is part of an alt-right group, which is another way of thinking about white supremacy. My family got the chance to attend Officer Collins' vigil at Bowie State University, and it was standing room only. I mean, it had to be over 1,000 people in the space, and everyone who spoke of him spoke so highly of him, as being a leader, as being just a very intelligent person, as being a very good person, being a trustworthy person. And it was clear that they weren't just saying this because someone passed away. It was clear that he had really touched their lives. It was clear that everyone who spoke about the first time that they met him. I mean, there are only a few people who you meet in your life, I think, who you really, really remember where you were the first time that you met them. And those people have a lasting impact on you. And what's interesting is that when you talk to other people and they say that that's the same thing for them. You know, when I think about these incidents, I've been asked an interesting question as I've been interviewed on different outlets about this incident. And I've been asked, do I feel comfortable at the University of Maryland? And my response is yes. I feel very comfortable at the University of Maryland. I continue to feel very comfortable at the University of Maryland. And see, this is what's telling, because see, while we're talking about this incident happening at the University of Maryland between a white University of Maryland student, which is a predominantly white institution, and a black student who is a student from Bowie State University, which is a HBCU, a historically black college and university. I mean, the dynamics there couldn't be more telling. However, it should also be quite telling that as a professor who has worked on many different types of campuses, who has been a student on many type of different campuses, who has visited many type of campuses, that this campus that has had a hate crime of one of the most traditional senses of the word as it relates to the United States, that this is the campus where I feel most comfortable. It simultaneously says something about all of the other campuses around the country. And it also says something about the University of Maryland. So on one hand, it shows how uncomfortable and how marginalizing and discriminatory university spaces can be for black and brown people, for people with various marginalizing identities. That could be women in the humanities. I mean, that could be individuals who have disabilities. That could be members of the LGBTQ community in certain spaces. On the other hand, it also speaks to some things that Maryland might be getting right. So, I mean, we've seen not only a barrage of unfortunate incidents, whether that be a noose found at a fraternity house, whether that be Muslim students being verbally attacked online for wanting to have a conversation about the movie American Sniper, whether that be a fraternity member sending a racially and sexist laced email to his fraternity brothers. I mean, saying every type of word you could imagine. And then also over the past year, flyers being found around campus and in professors' offices. I actually received one of these white propaganda, white supremacy flyers talking about how white people need to take back the world and take back America and these sort of things. And it was in my office box on campus. And so we've seen these incidents happening. And the responses that universities make, and again, this isn't just solely about University of Maryland, because this is a broader systemic problem that happens at universities and in workplaces around the country that are even outside of universities. Part of what happens is that we assume that universities should be more liberal, progressive, and accepting spaces. And on average, while that's the case, if you're say comparing the private to the public sector or universities to other spaces, sure, but that doesn't mean that it's all that progressive. I think that the needle, how far right we've actually went in terms of thinking about what progress means, in terms of thinking about what equality means, how conservative we are from that perspective, means that we aren't even threading the needle. I mean, we aren't even in the middle as it relates to progress. But University of Maryland has done some things. For example, changed the name of what was formerly known as Byrd Stadium, which is now Capital One Stadium, the football stadium, which was named after one of the longest tenured presidents, might even be the longest tenured president at the University of Maryland. Did a lot of positive things for the campus, but he was a staunch racist. And one of the biggest things is that he actually pushed out Perrin Mitchell, did not allow him to attend the university. And Thurgood Marshall, word has it, Thurgood Marshall, who was not allowed to attend University of Maryland Law School, who ended up attending Howard, and the list goes on and on. Brown versus Board of Education that he headed up, and then being a Supreme Court justice. First African-American to be a Supreme Court justice. Thurgood Marshall comes into President Byrd's office, throws down the papers, and essentially says, you're being sued for not allowing Perrin Mitchell to come into the university. Perrin Mitchell is the younger brother of Clarence Mitchell, who was one of the chief strategists for the NAACP, and later on ended up being in that role for President Lyndon Johnson. And so not only do we have the stadium name being changed for those for the racist acts of President Byrd, we also see the Perrin J. Mitchell building, the art sociology building, being renamed after Perrin Mitchell, who was the first African American to get a graduate degree from the University of Maryland while taking all of his courses on campus. He got that degree in sociology. Later said that sociology played a pivotal role in his life as it relates to social change and how he engages in the work that he was doing as the first black congressman from Maryland, as a Purple Heart awardee, as a World War II veteran. So we see this pattern. We also see the Clarence Mitchell building, which is the admin building. I just told you about him. We also see that they put up the Frederick Douglass statue. University of Maryland is a sanctuary university. So, I mean, there are several positive things that are happening at the university, including being one of the most diverse flagship universities in the country. Now, when you look at the demographics, it might not seem as diverse as you might think, but that's just how much just the lack of diversity actually exists at universities. Now, this is the conundrum of a place like University of Maryland. On one hand, we have all of these incidents occurring. On the other hand, we have all of these positive, progressive things happening. And what happens is it kind of boils over and comes together. And what happens is that individuals who have assumed symbolic privileges, whether they be related to whiteness or maleness or cisness or whatever it may be, is what happens is that when progress is being made toward equality, they start to feel oppressed. And for Urbanski, that's what we saw, is that he saw these black students standing there and he felt like they were invading on his space. He felt like they did not have the right to be there. And he decided to take the law into his own hands and took out a great one. And what's interesting is even if Officer Collins wasn't that good of a person, that still doesn't give you an excuse to kill someone. And I think that's the key thing. So when progress is being made, individuals who have experienced symbolic levels of privilege start to fight back to hold on to that privilege that they don't really have. And I think that's what we see in incidents like this. So while people are like, I can't believe this happened on a campus like University of Maryland, it shouldn't surprise us why it happened on a campus like University of Maryland. Because, I mean, these are the types of places where we see these types of things happening. Now, what we also need to think about is how we address these particular incidents. Typically, we address these incidents on an individual level. Oh, we couldn't find the person who had the noose. Oh, we caught the person who murdered this person. Oh, we couldn't find the person who, who hung a banana from a noose at American University and wrote AKA on it when the first black president got elected as student government association president, and she just happened to be a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, which was the first predominantly black sorority on a college campus. So we need to start focusing on these things organizationally and systemically instead of individually. We need to start sanctioning organizations. We need to start sanctioning groups. We need to start sanctioning groups of people who actually support and embody and actually embrace a culture that leads to the marginalization, discrimination, and even murder and killing of other people.